A driver of the number 14 Reynolds Racing Chassis Late Model. You're listening to Thursday Night Thunder on Speedway Digest Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to the April 1st edition of Speedway Digest Thursday Night Thunder, the most hardcore motorsports program on the internet. It's episode 204 of the series. Tonight, reviewing this past weekend of racing action, reviewing upcoming events, and discussing whatever other options we end up coming up with. All sorts of racing on, including the event in Bristol. I'm connecting a little bit different way this evening, trying to use the music that comes with the app here, and trying to get a little bit different perspective on that sort of thing. Hopefully you're able to hear me. Hopefully it sounds good. I know our co-host is having some problems with her app. Hopefully the CEO of EVO doesn't have that problem this evening. He is our guest this evening. EVO is short for Evolution Development Group. EVO is a revolutionary athlete development company that will give professional athletes the physical, financial, and mental support they need to reach their full potential and become top contenders. It's a new approach that ties success of top-performing athletes directly to the financial engagement of ordinary fans. EVO athletes will be developed across several individual sports, such as auto racing, golf, MMA, and boxing. As they succeed, a portion of their earnings will be shared with EVO and all of EVO's investors. EVO has already announced a partnership with Andretti Autosport to help scout top-performing drivers. EVO will surround each driver with a team of coaches, top-performing trainers, nutritionists, and most importantly, financial support. EVO also announced a partnership with Don Schumacher Racing, which I did a post on earlier this week. You can check that out at speedwaydigest.com. All potential EVO athletes must pass a rigorous selection process to see if they have what it takes to become an EVO athlete. EVO will unleash drivers' full potential by allowing the drivers to focus exclusively on their skills and not worry about the financial and mental challenges that plague the sport. Every sport needs to have the best competing against the best for entertainment value, and this company will help empower fans to invest and become part of that journey. Investors will get exclusive behind-the-scenes content and access. The cost of participation is often the biggest challenge for the driver, which we've discussed numerous times on this program. Top contenders are often unable to continue their careers because of the lack of funding. EVO is built for professional athletes and funded by fans. It should take care of some of the issues we talked about on this program before. The approach ties the success of top contenders directly to the financial engagement of ordinary fans. Now, you don't need to be wealthy and connected to invest and participate in the success of professional athletes. Imagine how fun it would be to get in on the money earned by a future winner of the NHRA U.S. Nationals or even the Indy 500. Simply go to evoinvest.com. That's evoinvest.com for more information. And you can learn more about their relationship with Don Schumacher Racing by going to evoinvest.com/DSR or checking out the release that I posted earlier in the week. Investors in EVO have two ways of potentially earning a return on investment. EVO will distribute 5% of the aggregate amount of revenue earned and received by the company to Class B common stock shareholders. Investors get what they invest in our online stock offerings on an annual basis. The exact amount received by each shareholder is based on the number of shares held beginning on or after January 1st of this year. Also, while there are no plans to do so in the immediate future, if EVO ever holds an IPO, or if EVO is merged or acquired by another company, all shareholders could get an additional return on investment. Shares are 75 cents each, with the minimum investment being 200 shares for $150, only for the number of shares you purchase. Now, this is an interesting way of doing things in the world here, and we're going to talk a little bit to the CEO, John Norman, about how that company came about. We'd now like to welcome Mr. John Norman to the program. Hello, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
Doing okay. Thank you very much. I got my first COVID-19 shot this evening, so I'm doing a little bit better, and hopefully everything will get a little bit better as time goes on.
That's great. Did you do the one-time shot, or do you have a multiple one?
I got the Pfizer shot. I have to go back in about 3 weeks. Actually, we'll be out of town. Yeah, we'll be out of town in like 3 weeks, so it'll have to be like 3.5 weeks or something. But
right,
it goes pretty well.
Good. Well, I've had both myself, so I'm off as well. Feels good to have that kind of protection.
It does. At least there seems to be a little bit of light in the end of the tunnel now. It was a really dark tunnel for a while, but it seems to be getting a little bit better every day now.
Yeah, great.
First off, how did you become interested in the world of auto racing originally?
Well, actually, about let's see, it was maybe 6 years ago. My son turned 16, and I thought it would be a fun father-son thing to do to go to a Skip Barber driving school and learn how to drive on a race course and just have some fun with my son. And that sort of started the whole journey here. And my son was really good in Skip Barber, and one of the instructors said, "Hey, your son's got some natural talent. Maybe you should go ahead and look at this as doing some club racing." And it evolved from there.
How did you decide to get involved in the investment side of the sport with the new EVO company?
Well, that really came about 3 years ago. My Ryan was racing with Andretti Autosport Indy Lights, and was sitting there and learning a lot about racing by being, participating in it. And it was very apparent that there were a lot of drivers, not only in Indy Lights, but also in IndyCar and the lower series of Road to Indy, that they were extremely talented, but they didn't have the budget to continue racing. And it was just one of those things where I just had a lot of time sitting around at the track and came up with this concept that, wouldn't it be great if, like, the ordinary fans could somehow get involved and help these drivers that were super talented stay in the sport. And got introduced to a friend of mine who said, "Hey, there's a new way of funding startup companies now that the government put together for startups. It's called a Regulation A plus offering." And I looked into it and did some research and found an attorney that specialized in it. And that was about 2.5 years ago that it took us this long to get through all of the SEC approval and the process. And during that time period, we learned that this was a problem not only in racing, but actually in the majority of individual sports like tennis, golf, MMA, fighting, combat sports, things like that. So we expanded it out, turned it into a business plan that we put together, and got approved by the SEC, and just launched it to the general public about 5-6 weeks ago.
And I know you're involved with Andretti Autosport, obviously, and you've also recently announced a deal with Don Schumacher Racing. Are there any other teams that you're looking into working with in the near future?
Well, we looked at first, it was the open wheel racing, because that's where I had the most experience and understood the relationships there. And of course, you can't get much better than having a partnership with Mykkal Andretti and the Andretti team, in knowing, like, who are the up and coming drivers that might be struggling to stay, on the track because of funding. So that was a great advantage. And then Mykkal actually introduced me to Don Schumacher, and he said that he really always wanted to have a Andretti and an Evo. Evo's short for evolution, so that's what we call it for short. And do an Andretti Evo Schumacher top fuel dragster, and that we should start looking for a driver that we could develop and in a couple of years be in the top levels. And of course, everybody says, when are we going to enter into NASCAR? So we've got our relationships out there now. Can't announce anything right now, but I can assure you that we're going to be probably entering that series as well.
Well, let me go ahead and throw you out my co-host, Mykkal Mulalley-Kapalo, and Afraid of Washington, who has some questions for you, and then I might have a couple more in a few minutes.
Sure.
So my first question for you, what kind of things does Evo look for when they're scouting their drivers or their players?
Well, it's going to change a little bit depending on the actual sport, but let's say with motor racing and the drivers, typically we're looking for a driver that has already proven himself as being quick, having pace, being able to be in the top of their class. So maybe somebody that is just got a great natural talent, but they haven't had the funding to get the seat time that they really need. And as we know in racing, seat time is really the only time you can practice, other than a simulator. So if these drivers that are already at a professional level had the ability to have the funding that would allow them to get more seat time and to get better coaching, and also have the physical and the nutritional help as well, that we would be able to elevate their game, so to speak. So we're at this phase right now looking for that driver. We're going to be announcing within another week or so our first driver in the series, in the open wheel series, and that'll be very exciting as well. But hopefully that answered your question properly.
Yeah, of course. And my next question, so of all the sports and everything that Evo is involved with, which has been your absolute favorite and why?
Well, considering that we're right on the verge of announcing the golfers and a driver and a few combat sport athletes, it's been exciting with all three. I think I am still a huge race fan, and that's where my heart is. But I'm learning an awful lot also about golf, professional golfers, and realizing, and I wasn't aware of just how much money is available for golfers, professional golfers, to make out on the PGA Tour. And when I found out that the top 50th golfer on the PGA Tour of about 200 people, the average, they're making about $2 million a year. And that's very exciting for an Evo golfer, being able to, get to that level. I mean, there's not many sports that you can be the top 50th in anything and earning that kind of money. So I think that's going to be a great sport, or a great addition to our Evo platform.
And my final question for you this evening, how does Evo decide which team of your nutritionist, like you stated, and all of them, how do you guys decide who gets who? How is that determined?
Well, right now we're working out all of those initial things, because let's say, frankly, we just have been open to the public, 5-6 weeks ago. So the way that we're doing it is that we're establishing a foundation of having a medical, everything from a medical doctor who's got expertise in managing and dealing with professional athletes already. We've got that person in place. Then we've got just this last week, we were in Charlotte, actually meeting with a nutrition company that's going to do all of the blood work and analyzing and of our athletes and their chemical makeup. And what we're going to be doing is providing the food and all the supplements that are going to be necessary to make sure that they're performing, their engine is running at 100%. And the way we're choosing athletes is really, we have a committee put together of people that are premier in their sport themselves, and we analyze each athlete, and then we get together and have a board meeting where we decide on which athlete or athletes we're going to offer to bring on board. So it's a group effort. It's not just my decision, let's say.
How much input would the average investor have in determining? Basically, I'm asking is, would an investor be able to give you an idea of somebody they've followed and who might need your support?
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for asking that. And we want to make it available. Like right now, people can email in to the general email for Evo, and we plan on, maybe it might take us a couple months to get this established, but we are 100% sure that there are some dynamic killer athletes out there that have no visibility whatsoever. And we thought it would also be a fun way to involve the investors and fans to be able to suggest and to almost like promote a certain athlete that they think would be worth us taking a look at. And I think that'll be fun for everybody. Almost like a The Voice or American Idol kind of scenario, where there's ordinary people out there that have extraordinary talent, and they haven't pursued it yet. So I think that'll be an exciting thing too. But yeah, we look forward to doing that as well.
And if my listeners are interested in more information about what Evo does and how you go about doing it, what would be the best way for them to find out more?
Yeah, the best way is evoinvest.com, evoinvest.com. And there's plenty of great video content there. Very simple explanation of how the program works, how your investment goes into Evo. And we pool the winnings from all of our athletes. You don't choose an athlete. It's essentially like buying shares in a mutual fund, where you know that some companies are going to be successful and some might not. But it doesn't matter, because you didn't have to pick one. You've got a stake in the entire program. And that's, I think, really helpful in it. It diversifies the risk, and a very simple way to invest. And you can do it directly online, and it's very simple.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the program this evening. I think it's an amazing concept you have, and hopefully it goes pretty well for you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right.
Once again, that was the EVO CEO, John Norman, who has the EVO company, and it's a really interesting perspective he's got on the world of racing and other sports. He does pretty well. I'm actually thinking about trying to convince my wife that I put a little bit of money into it myself. That might be kind of cool. Let's go ahead and take a short musical break here and see if this actually works. And we'll we'll go ahead and choose a selection from Ron Pastana and the pit crew. Let's go. Let's go short track racing, shall we? Once again, that was short track racing from Ron Pastana and the pit crew. We'd like to thank the producer there of Ron Pastana and the pit crew for allowing us to continue to use their music again this season. Be sure to check them out online by searching for Ron Pastana and the pit crew. Are you a race car driver, crew chief, pit member, track owner? Maybe you're just a huge fan of the sport. Contact either Mykkal Mulalley-Kapalo or myself to get your spot on the show. After all, you deserve your 50 minutes of fame, and we'd definitely love to hear from you. It's been a fairly busy few weeks of racing, and we haven't had the show for a couple of weeks. We got a little bit of a spring break, plus I was feeling a little bit under the weather, which isn't very fun, but hopefully it's all going to be getting better now. As I stated earlier in the show, I did get my COVID-19 vaccine this afternoon, my first second one I'll have to take in about 3.5 weeks because I will be out of town for a couple of days. You know, that's kind of one of those sort of things. But hopefully everything goes pretty well. It wasn't really that bad of an experience at all. I was kind of worried about it just a little bit. But as you walked into the fairgrounds where I got the shot today, it was pretty cool. It's a very large arena there, a air-conditioned tent basically is what it is. And they had lots of things set up for giving lots of people shots at the same time. And it worked really, really well, very efficient, and hopefully it's just as efficient when I go back for my second dose. So that's kind of cool. Again, it's been a busy few weeks of racing. This past weekend, we had the race there in Bristol. It was the truck race as well as the NASCAR Series race. They were delayed until Monday because the weather in Bristol, Tennessee was, well, it was rainy, really, really rainy. And when they got the covered in mud on Friday and Saturday for the practices, they ended up canceling a lot of the stuff there. They ended up having no activity on track at all on Sunday. So it was just a big, wet, muddy mess there. But it did end up coming together in the end. Some of the competitors had a better time than others. Obviously, it was a great weekend there for the Joey Logano and his team. So that was kind of cool. But hopefully it's better next year. They are planning on redoing the race there, the dirt track at Bristol again next season. So it'll be kind of interesting. Are there any races you're looking forward to coming up in the near future?
Not really that I'm looking forward to, because I just haven't really looked at all the schedules yet. But I do know that it seems like first races are actually coming up at I don't know, at the three big tracks around here. So I know that their seasons are starting to kick off, and I know that they're not limiting, but they are allowing more people than they did last year. So I think it'll be a good season.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be better. It looks like the people are starting to get vaccinated. People are trying to move in the right direction. There are certain sporting events that have already announced they're going to be restricting the people who attend there to ones who have been vaccinated already, or people who are negative, COVID-19 negative. They've done all sorts of weird stuff. I saw they actually used COVID-19 sniffing dogs there in Bristol for the competitors and the crews. So that's a little interesting. But you didn't hear anything about anybody bringing denied entry, so it must be okay. But there's definitely some new ideas going out there, and as people get vaccinated and things start to get a little bit better, I think it'll be a much better season overall. There have been some delays, of course. There have been some changes in schedules. I've reported on those for Speedway Digest, some of the stuff in California and that sort of thing. Still, they're a little iffy about resuming activity there. I'm sure that in the next few weeks there'll be some movement about the racing there in Canada, which is still on hold, but they are scheduled for later in the year. So hopefully that happens, and hopefully it gets better. Sebring was a few weeks ago. I didn't actually get to attend Sebring race because, as stated, I wasn't feeling 100%. So I didn't get to go out there, but that was a pretty good race. I watched that entirely on television, almost 10 hours of the 12 hours of coverage. And that was pretty cool. The weather was okay there most of the time. It was warm, but it wasn't that bad. There wasn't any rain, which is a good thing. So it seemed to go pretty well. Huge field for what was. So next year they're planning on returning the World Endurance Championship there to Sebring, so that'll be cool, and we can see how that goes. I'm hoping we can see how that goes. So that'll be interesting. As far as races that I'm planning on attending in the near future, I don't think there's actually any left on my schedule for this year. That will probably change later in the year. But as of right now, I don't think there's any more racing I'm scheduled to attend, which is kind of a bummer. But there's always something that might pop up later. The main thing I'm going to be doing is some work for my Adam's Awesome Adventures / Morplin's Fantastic Find. I'm going to be doing a little bit of travel coverage for that. I'm traveling to Mississippi, Biloxi area in the next few weeks, so that'll be interesting. Also planning on hoping on a cruise for the fall. We all know how that happened. My hoping for a cruise in January, and it just didn't happen. Plans, but I'm still got my fingers crossed that the next cruise will take place in October. It's a long time between here and October, and 230 days. So let's keep our fingers crossed that things start improving in that respect as well. In other news on SpeedwayDigest.com, I have started to post a couple of articles there on the Revved Up with Waldorf series, which was very popular last season. We've got 10 different authors we're going to be profiling in the next couple of weeks. We just profiled in one of the, actually number 11, I suppose, Don Bakisek, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He is found on the SpeedwayDigest.com as one of the featured articles. So be sure to check that out. It gives a little bit of information about his book, a little bit of information about his interest in motorsports and his interest in automotive stuff like that. As I stated, I've got 10 more of those posts that will be posted over the next probably 5 weeks. So that'll be interesting. Also have some more articles along the same line from Waldorf Publishing. So those are more profiles of athletes. Do a few more of, and you'll have to find out when those come out because I really don't have them on my schedule right now. I just have them sitting in my inbox. So be sure to keep a lookout for those. Those will be popping up in the next month to 2 month time frame. We do have a special program slated for Tuesday at 4:15 p.m. That's an earlier time for us. Tuesday at 4:15 p.m. Please join us as we welcome Maymo Gidley, sports car racer extraordinaire, to the Thunderdome. It'll be an interesting episode, to say the least, and looking forward to hearing what Gidley has to say about his work in the biopic, the Become Who You Are, which we talked to the director of and screenwriter and producer and everything else of the film. So hopefully it'll be cool to talk to Maymo Gidley. And next Thursday, we have a couple of other people to talk to. We're going to be talking to Miles Rowe, who's a open wheel star, a rising star. So him. We might have a few other representatives from other organizations as well, including Cool Technologies, which recently announced the deal with Andretti Autosport. I'm very happy that I'm starting to work a little bit more with some people from Andretti, and they're giving us more information and more insight and more access. So I'm looking forward to bringing that to you. You can check out some of that information on SpeedwayDigest.com. With that, be sure to check out past episodes of Thursday Night Thunder, as well as the other shows that were on the Speedway Digest Radio Network at speedwaydigest.podbean.com. You can also check out the show on Facebook by searching for Speedway Digest Thursday Night Thunder in the search bar. I also invite you to read all the articles covering all aspects of motorsports at speedwaydigest.com. In addition, if you're a fan of South Florida, and who isn't, be sure to check out the latest news and information about our slice of paradise at my site for Borplum's Fantastic Finds. It can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and by heading to Borplum's Fantastic Finds at WordPress.com. FABORPLUMBS Fantastic Finds at WordPress.
Thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week in the Thunderdome as we discuss the major issues in the world of modern auto racing.
Thanks again.